Okay, my intention is to turn this video into a vlog, if I can muster the courage. And the reason is something that just kind of occurred to me. I was thinking back to, so I think a lot about self-improvement, and I also don't tell people what I think much. And so I was thinking about self-improvement. I was thinking about this fucking pizza I'm making and just laughing at the absurdity of putting this whole pizza into my body when I know it's gonna make me feel like shit. I know it's not bringing my body closer to peak energy channeling, and I know it's also gonna, in the past, pizzas have, I beat myself up for this stupid decision after the fact, and so there's the pain of that too, and the pizza is just altogether a bad deal. And so that's what, that's, and just kind of, I guess, this isn't going to be all recap. I want this to be mostly just contemporaneous, but, I was thinking, like, in the comic book of my life, melty cheese, I can't even say this with a straight face. Melty cheese is basically like one of my arch nemesis. Like, just an absolute super villain of my life is melty fucking cheese. And I just, that's how it is. And also chocolate. Okay. But anyway, I was thinking about, barriers to me making the right choice here, and it really just came down to me wanting melty fucking cheese. And so I was just talking to myself about it, and I flashed back to my junior year of college, like 2016, when I lived alone, and it was my first time living alone. And it was probably the most rapid self-improvement year I've ever had. And I'm still moving very, very quickly and spending a majority of my energy on this. But this year in particular was just, it was basically the 0 to 1 year where I got to stick my head above water and see what life is like when you're not experiencing crippling depression and anxiety. And so it was just this whole new world that I hadn't experienced in so long that I just didn't really know what it was. But anyway, I think that's part of it, like just the energy that came with. But I think another part of it is that I just talk to myself out loud all the time, and it got to the point where I had to remind myself not to talk to myself in front of others so as not to worry them, but also and this is, we're really coming around to the point about 4 minutes in. It also brought forth the fact that while I haven't been talking out loud since, because I've gone back to living with people, I'm still doing that all the time, and I'm still conversing with myself in my head a lot of the time. It's just something I've done forever. And so that I guess the jump is thinking about, like, what if... Okay, so the talking about it out loud, I think... I don't know what it did for me. I guess I have no conjecture at this point as to how that differentiated from talking to myself in my head that year. But I guess regardless, I don't even need to make the case that it made a difference. The idea it brought me is actually... You'll have to put up with long silences if you're anyone who ever watches this. Also, never mind. Later. Anyway, it's completely separate. And so the idea is this. I have this issue that I haven't really considered wholeheartedly as an issue, as a barrier, but I don't tell people what I think enough. And I don't tell my loved ones what I think enough. And that's not to say that I don't share and that I'm not a forthright communicator, because I very much am. But there's just a big barrier for me to open my mouth in the first place a lot of times. And so I was also cognizant of people in my life who are very forthright, or, they share every single thought that crosses their mind. And, part of me really appreciates that. And there's beauty in that level of transparency and authenticity and just confidence. But then there's also and this is really the meat of it, is I realized how afraid of that I am. Like, deeply, deeply afraid. Just talking about it, I feel it in my chest. Because I'm terrified of my ideas being judged. And, who I am being judged, and fear of judgment generally, right? It's easier to feel like I'm not being judged if I'm not talking, and it's also easier to not be judged when you're not talking. It's just a way of it. It's a tactic. It's not strictly a defense mechanism. I think it definitely serves silence and, some kind of filter can be really helpful in certain situations. But also, I feel like I'm not living in a full range if that's something that's stopping me, right? I'm not... The fear is just, it gets in the way. And so, again, we're hitting the point. It's now 9 minutes in. I've absolutely rambled. But this isn't really for consumption. This is really just to overcome that fear as quickly as I can. Because I thought about, what if I just talk to myself in front of my friends? And that'd go fine. Wonderful, accepting people that already know I'm eccentric. But, we could also go straight to 1 million. And not to say that, this is gonna ever get anywhere near 100 views. But the idea that it could, I think, forces me to confront this fear of being judged for what I'm thinking and feeling, And the way I choose to communicate it, I just have to I have to confront it. And yeah. So anyway, that's the why we're here. And that's, I don't want these to be recaps. I want these to be just like sessions. Like, this is, so to give a little more, and I also don't want to, I don't know, it's kind of weird to talk to a camera like there's a person there, because that's not what I was doing before. It was just like me, and it is still just me. I don't know, we're experimenting. But I feel inclined to give so much more backstory, and maybe that's good for helping me form connections, but it could also get in the way. But anyway, just a little more backstory as to like what is currently happening in a very instantaneous sense is I have essentially I've never really had to describe what this is to me. I guess it's, part of me wants to say it's a ritual, which it is. So I'm pacing back and forth. That may have been obvious by now, I'm not sure. I pace back and forth. First, I smoke weed. A little bit of THC, a little bit of CBD, like microdosing. Hugely beneficial to me over the years. The THC helps with the depression, the CBD helps with the anxiety, and it also launches me into this really creative space where the voice in my head is louder, and that's why I think part of why I was inclined to talk to myself out loud, because it's just like that level of volume, which I don't know, this is kind of abstract, but it just the connections, you just get to roam a greater area in your brain, and it's like the cloud in which lightning can travel between points is getting bigger, and so there's longer bolts and more bolts, and I don't know. Weed is awesome, but that is a part of what I'm doing. So jams stay on usually. It's definitely a long playlist or album type activity, because you want a long train of thought that can just go kind of uninterrupted. So I'll listen to an artist's whole discography. Yeah, fuck it, I'll just share whatever. Like, this is really interesting to do. I really like my kind of, how to do this without memeing myself. It's like really melancholy stuff, but with really smooth production. And the melancholy isn't important necessarily. It's just pizza time. Let's give it a check. I zoomed in. I don't know how to flip the camera and show you my beautiful pizza, but it's looking about done. God, after going in on what a dumb decision it is to have this pizza, it's funny to look at it and smell it and be like, Also, by the end of this, I'm going to have no idea what I was saying. Weed does not come without drawbacks. Weed definitely has side effects, and they do suck. But Still worth it. For me, right now, at this point in my life. Not gonna say it's always gonna be worth it, though it very well might. Could try SSRIs. Could change things. Yeah, I have no idea what I was talking about before this pizza. Ah, music. Yeah, yeets. Pizza. The great and powerful. Citizens beware. Okay. Music. Smooth production and emotional resonance, I guess? Maybe that's not even that important, because I can also just do this to like lo-fi anything. And that'll work. So maybe it's just the minimalist, or, minimalist work. The consistency is really key. As in, like, it needs to be an album or an artist or really compatible vibes. Maybe I'll just give you the example. I guess I would say I've probably done at least 50% of all the scheming I've ever done in my life like this to Tom York. Like, just a stupid amount of Tom York in my life. I guess, like, these things are so weird to include. Like, Tom York is the lead singer of Radiohead. If you didn't know. But, like, who are you? And of course you knew. Because, wait, no, of course you don't know. But, like, I don't know. It's just weird talking to a hypothetical person here. But I guess I would explain that to a friend. It's not exactly common knowledge. But anyway, I fucking love Tom York. Like, ridiculous fanboy energy. Don't trust me at all. I don't know. So Tom York's big. Tomorrow's Modern Box is absolute jam, but also, like, not a globally sad album, but definitely got some heavy listens on it. And then there's James Blake, and then there's Sonlux. I honestly have no idea, but he's great, and he liked my tweet one time, but just liked it, didn't reply. I hate the idea of having Twitter, but it's probably comparable to what I'm doing right now. And so maybe it is part of this path as well. Fortuitous that I sit like this. I'm not going to eat this pizza yet, because one thing I consistently fuck up about making my own pizzas is eating them too quickly, because I am a certified slut for melty cheese. And it burns me. So, one thing that is super, this is really like, Tomorrow's Modern Boxes, Proof, a beautiful original by Harrison Fang, TM, Tame Impala, and then Post-its. Such a good tool to organize thought. I don't actually use them as much anymore, but when I think I've just internalized it as a thought process. I don't know. What I like about them is you can put anything out, like any thought, like lightning bugs. Like there's a bunch of lightning bugs around, and it's calling you, it feels like an omen, whatever. You put that down, and then you're like, all right, what's the biggest problem in my life right now? I need to fucking get a new sale for the mushroom company. And um, then you just start working on, like, okay, where could I maybe find someone who wants to grow their own mushroom? Facebook, whatever. And you outline all the things you thought of in that one question, and then um, it's like nested lists, but then you can completely recategorize them because you can move them, and so you can make like bidirectional lists and kind of networks of different things that connect in different ways, and you can color code and I loosely color code based on levels of abstraction. So like skills I prioritize in my life. Communication. This is a difficult example because it's kind of especially. All right, communication. Let's call that the purple, just highest level skill. Good enough. Below that, design. I consider design part of communication. And then, below that, just to keep it really consistent, I guess, like you could go UI design, UX design, web design, sub skills even, and then between there's like, under if you went web design or something, or graphic design, you could say under that, from purple to blue to green to pink being color theory. And so, you go deep as hell on skills, and then there's just something in that whole sphere that connected to lightning bug for you, and it's just this crazy insight that just you weren't expecting. And this is so strange for me. I have been a very private person for a while. And I wonder if this is gonna get posted. So, and I also like, where do I call this, right? Well, I guess all this to say is that I'll probably, if I can commit to this, I will probably post videos that are when I'm doing my high pacing with jams and maybe some post-it notes type thing. Because it's a good place to start. Definitely need to remember CBD, otherwise these will not happen. It'd be so interesting if, like, someone watched this and then asked me a question, and then the next one I would talk about it. And that's super, basic YouTube, but like, what a fucking concept. Yeah. So it's also easy if I can just talk about whatever too, and just go back. What what drove me to smoke tonight is feeling like hmm, we can kind of go deep here. It's so hard sitting in front of this damn pizza. It's like I want to burn my mouth. I want to do it. So, ooh, also my phone might die. I guess I'll try to. Well, I'm gonna go for it. Fuck it. If it dies, it dies. That's the end of the session. Peace and love. This past weekend was the 4th of July, 2021. Me and 6 of my closest friends. To put that in traditional speak, because I feel hold on, I'm getting a text. That does make sense. Good call, Ariel. So yeah, just earmark, someday we'll talk about relationships. Or today, we'll see. So I was at this friend's house out in Illinois, and we all did psychedelics. And the plan was to do acid, but we're kind of low on acid, and didn't have enough for a full tab for everyone. And I've done enough acid. I don't know how concerned to be about incriminating myself, but well enough. So I wanted to do, we had a few mushrooms as well that were intended to be, supplemental for anyone who got a half tab if they wanted to flip. And rather than do any acid, I just did like 4.5 to 5 grams of mushrooms, very potent mushrooms, and that was a hell of a time. And yeah, I think I'll just cut this around 30 minutes, because who the fuck actually wants to watch something more than 30? I mean, even 28 is cutting it close. You know what? Yeah, we're gonna call that my phone storage is low. I've been hoarding data on this phone, and it's about to stop anyway, and my battery's gonna die. So I am almost certainly gonna eat this damn pizza to my own peril, but I will be slower to buy more of this bullshit next time. Slow growth, making every relapse a little shorter. Okay. Peace and love and progress.